I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, September the 27th, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Vitalix provides the most concentrated feed at the lowest cost per head per day. Livestock is your livelihood. Tubs are their expertise. Get the blue tub. Go to Vitalix.com. Also, the Santa Teresa Livestock Auction down in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. It's an all-Mexican cattle auction right here in the USA. Features the best cattle from south of the border coming up, ready to be shipped to you. Everything's done. You can get online to DVAuction.com, get approved, bid on the cattle online, or you can call one of the buyers that they have there or go down there yourself. But you can buy those cattle and they are ready to ship to your place, ready to be turned out on wheat or grass or whatever you've got, and they don't die, guys. It's natural selection there. The cattle, if they were going to die, they'd already done it. Get a hold of my friend Tato Medina and talk to him about buying some cattle out of there. The auction is on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That'll be 11 o'clock Central. For more information, go to stlusa.com. Cattle futures knocked down. Why were they knocked down? We're in this big up market here. Well, from what we hear, technical factors had something to do with it. It was overbought. They can always say that when it's been up for several days. I think more to do with it is the economy, the fear of a recession. These interest rates are taking a toll on this country, guys, and we're headed for a recession. But the fear of a government shutdown, and most of the time you wouldn't think that much about that. The fear of a government shutdown. What would it really do? Not much. It might stop some purchasing for a school lunch program if it lasted very long. But if it does happen, it's not going to last more than a week or two. I was involved with a government shutdown when I worked for the government. And my ass was in hot water all the time when I worked for the government, mostly because I wanted to tell the truth to people about the markets, and they didn't want me to do that. But the worst trouble I ever got into was continuing to do my job during a government shutdown. Whoa, you can't do that unless you're deemed a necessary employee, and market reporters are not. So there won't be any market reporting. Of course, we'll still do the best we can here on the feeder flash, but the biggest thing that a government shutdown would do right now, if we had one, is you wouldn't be able to get your LRPs locked in, and that could be a deal, especially on these feeder cattle and on these calves selling them. But like I said, if we do have one, it's likely not to last more than a week or maybe two at the most. And the only reason that they let the government shut down is to cause chaos. And that's why they don't want things to happen as normal. They want things to be an upheaval, and that's the reason that they do it. But those are the reasons altogether why we think that the board was down so much. Of course, these days, whenever it starts to tumble one way, I think one of the big reasons the board was down is because both your live cattle nearby and feeder cattle spot month were trading at such a premium to what the cash market is that they needed to come down. Well, when people start taking them down, those algorithms take over and they just roll down. But board was down big on Tuesday, and we lost some key levels. Box beef cutout values, which didn't have anything to do with the board. I think that was another reason that the board was down, is because the box beef cutout values continue to struggle. But choice cutouts fell under $300. That's kind of a spot signal there. Your real-time index fell under $2.50 for the first time in a long time. So we're losing some key levels there on some of these prices, but the board was just down big, and it puts people in fear. Beef cold storage report come out this week, said that our beef cold storage for August was up 2.7%, but still down 17 point. It was up from July, 2.7%, but still down 17.9% compared to a year ago, and that's pretty significant. And I don't think packers have too much stacking up in their cold storage. They've pulled the production way down, slowed the chain speeds down, and they still can't get cutouts any higher. Just ask more for them, just like I tell the guys to do in the feedlots, but it doesn't seem to work that way. But box beef cutout values are not a negotiated price. It's a set price by the packers. Crank them up there. Let some of these wholesalers and these retailers just sit and stew until they buy some of it. But likely the box beef cutout value on the spot market there for immediate delivery is a way that your packers can kind of play around with things. They're not moving that much product on that quote anyway. They're moving it all out front, all in some kind of formula deal, so that they could afford to pull back on a little bit if it'll help calm the board down, help calm the cash market down a little bit, and likely that had as much to do with it as anything. Let's talk about your futures. For Tuesday, October live cattle futures were down $2.17 at 184.80. December down $2.75 at 188.47. Your back months were all down big. Down $1.30 was the least, and that was the farthest month out, and to as much as $2.85 lower. Feeder cattle down hard, not quite as much on your September contract because it has to meet up with your index levels here in just a few days, so they couldn't take it down too much more than what your CME cash feeder cattle index is showing, and it's going to fall again the next time it comes out because it's always running behind your real-time index, and your cash prices were down a bunch on Tuesday, so it's going to fall. So September feeder cattle are going to fall some more and likely pull some of these others with them. But September feeder cattle down $1.27 at 250, 260. October contracts down $4.95 at 250, 387. And your back months down big, down 440 to down 582 on your back months on feeder cattle. Ouch. Can't lock in your LRPs near as well as you could on Monday or late last week, guys. Your corn for December, you thought, oh my gosh, it must have been up big. No, it was down $1.50 a bushel at 479 3/4, or down $0.015, excuse me, I should say. Beans for November new crop up 5 cents at 13.02 3/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December down 4 cents at 7.10 1/2 a bushel. Talk about your fat cattle trade. What's the best way to ensure that you don't have to pay a higher price for fat cattle in your negotiated trade for the third week in a row? Start paying steady money on a Tuesday when the board's down. You still got a negative basis for Southern Plains cattle feeders because fat cattle aren't bringing 184.80, so you've got a negative basis there, but it's not nearly as negative as it was last week when they traded. So you had willing participants at the steady money there, and it kept packers from having to raise the bids again for the third week in a row. It has narrowed the premium that the Northern Plains guys are getting, and it's kind of getting it all coupled back up together. Now, Iowa sold about 900 head negotiated direct at 184 live and 290 dressed. Now, that would be within last week's range, but on the lower end of it. Nebraska didn't trade anything confirmed. Kansas and Texas didn't trade anything by 2 o'clock, but I heard there was significant trade in Kansas and Texas at steady money of 183. So, they're trading 183. Best Iowa's done so far this week is 184. So, it's getting down there pretty narrow now. Did have a brick and mortar sale, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. They had a lot of cattle. 1,900 head in overnight, 3,000 head for the fat cattle auction there. The conventional cattle sold from 180 to 186.50. That was steady to about $1 lower. Non-implanted program cattle selling from 182.50 to 187.50, not much higher than that. That was $6.50 to $7 lower. Ouch. They did have a test of drug-free program cattle on Tuesday, and they sold from 183 to 190 and a quarter. If you hear tell about it or see it on a market card, they did have a 236 head strain of western Nebraska feedlot cattle come in there, and they only brought 177 and a quarter. I'm not sure if they were holding a grudge against that feeder, and maybe the reason he wasn't being able to get them sold at home or what happened. Did hear the cattle were fairly wild and maybe not quite as attractive as what the farmer feeders brought in, but still that's kind of a stiff penalty there at 177 and a quarter, and the other cattle were bringing well up into the 180s. Box beef cutout values, choice cuts down 194 at 299.54. Selects down to $135 at 279.10. Your slaughter's actually been running pretty decent, but we have heard at least some regionals are going to be dark. One regional, major regional, which is kind of an oxymoron, but one regional there that harvests a significant amount of cattle is going to be closed later in the week, at least 2 days. So it's going to wane off, but up through the first 2 days of the week, 255,000 harvested, and that was an estimate. That 7,000 more than last week, 3,000 more even than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Legend Bank. If you're looking for fast and efficient cattle financing, you need to get a hold of either Greg Brooks or Ricky Taylor there in Legend Bank. They're the largest cattle financiers there in North Texas, but they can serve you in all of Texas and all of Oklahoma. So if you want somebody that understands the cattle business, kind of knows what's going on, and is not going to be shocked or ignorant about things in there, get a hold of them there at Legend Bank. Don't forget, Legend Bank is a member of the FDIC. All loans are subject to credit approval, and they are an equal housing lender. For more information, go to legend.bank. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Tuesday, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, $248.95, down $2.39, mostly due to Tuesday's lower market there. But that is a 7-day moving average, and it's just like your CME cash feeder cattle index. The only difference is we only put in cash auction prices, not directs, and not any direct trade that doesn't get checked upon, and nobody really knows whether it happened, if that was a price level or what. But let's talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri had 3,400 head through the ring. They had another 700 head through their in-house video they do with help from DVAuction. The cattle through the ring were mostly lower. Feeder cattle, feeder steers and heifers sold $5 to $7 lower, but the run was mostly calves. The calf offering was sold uneven, from 5 lower to 5 higher, and it mostly had to do with condition and whether the cattle were weaned and vaccinated or not. And that's going to be the story for the next few months here. If you're not going to wean, you're not going to vaccinate your cattle, it's going to be really hard to try to guesstimate what they might bring. If you've got good cattle, you've got them 60 days weaned, and you've got them at least 1 round and preferably 2 rounds of shots, it's going to be easy to estimate what they might bring. They're going to bring near the top of the market, especially if you've got some decent groups of them. But not so much if you got odd cattle that are balling and haven't been worked. Talk about another sale barn. Denny Rezac Livestock Commission in St. Mary's, Kansas had a good sale. About 1,900 feeders through the ring there at St. Mary's on Tuesday. Market was mostly higher. Calves were not well tested. You look at this automated market report and you see your best tested weights were up in your yearling feeder cattle. About 662 head of 8-weight steers. They averaged 855 with a weighted average price of $245.70. 322 head of 9-weight steers averaged $942 and $230, $294. You look at the heifers, 296 head of 7-weight heifers, average 759, with a weighted average price of $235.26. Good sale there, St. Mary's, Kansas. How about Beaver County Stockyards? They had a good sale. Market was mostly higher for them. They were our NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day there in Beaver, Oklahoma. You look at this automated market report. There were several weight groups that were well tested. I'm just going to show you the steers. How about 217 head of 4-weight steers, average 446, with a weighted average price of $321.48. Wow. How about 140 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 545, weighted average price there $294.30. Wow. 234 head of 6-weight steers, average 637 and $264.44. Get a load of this. How about 316 head of 8-weight steers in the Oklahoma Panhandle that had a weighted average weight of 850 pounds, a weighted average price of $250.25. Well over our real-time index value, weighing 850, not 800 pounds. And how about 208 head of 9-weight steers, average 967 at $242.61. I want to give you some market on light calves. We're getting into the fall of the run. We've got a lot of places featuring some nice groups of light calves. One was indeed Beaver County Stockyard in Beaver, Oklahoma. These are unweaned, but fancy kind. 101 head, weighed 437 and bring 332. I see why it's hard to convince people to wean their calves when they sell that well unweaned. Imagine what they would have brought had they been weaned. Another lightweight calf market in a totally different part of the country. Producers Livestock in Salina, Utah. They've got grass out there for winter grazing, guys, way out west. Calves are going to be in high demand. 66 steer calves weighed 473 and bring $3.50 a pound. I would hope they're weaned, but I'm not for sure whether they are or not. Another calf market, Riverton Livestock Auction in Riverton, Wyoming. They always sell light calves high there at Riverton. 55 steer calves weighed 446 and bring $367. Wow, impressive light calf markets. How about some more yearling type feeder cattle? Unionville Livestock Market in Unionville, Missouri. Kurt and Heather Spore Leader there. They always sell the Rockin' R's cattle. These cattle are backgrounded, but they know how to do it, and they leave some good in them, guys. They had 4 loads you see listed here. Altogether, those 4 loads, there was 243 head of them that averaged 883 pounds with a weighted average price of $246.75. How about your most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, and it was your Mackerson No BS top quote for the day, come out of Atkinson Livestock Market in Atkinson, Nebraska. 72 steers, they'd be calves, 645 pounds, bring $294. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.